We are live. Not yet. There we go. I am now live. What's up, everyone? Welcome to your lunch break with John. How's everyone doing out there? Doing alright. I see we've got Nephilim Ninja already in the chat saying, alright, planning around this consistent schedule now. Awesome. That's what I like to see. I hope you're out there having a nice lunch, maybe a little sandwich. I don't know what that was. Okay. Um, so today, this whole week we've been talking about liberty, um, what it is, do we need it, and anarchy in general. So the most extreme form of liberty. But today, we're going to go a little different. We're going to talk about some criticisms of libertarianism and libertarians as well. Um, so I wanted to start first with kind of general criticisms. Um, Not a lot of people will say it sounds like this when you explain libertarianism to someone. They'll say that it's very selfish, it's self-centered, um, that it lacks compassion for others, and it's just generally an awful and selfish ideology. Now, a lot of that comes from my guess, at least, comes from one a misunderstanding, a fundamental misunderstanding of liberty and libertarianism. And I think a lot of that is directed towards Ayn Rand and her writings on objectivism. Because on the face of it, it does seem selfish, right? Objectivism says that you must always do whatever is in your best interest and, basically screw other people. Um, Shit, phone went off. Let me silence that real quick. Very unprofessional. Seem like J. Edgar over here. Phone's going off and stuff. Put that right there. So, yeah, with Ayn Rand and objectivism, that's where I was going. Doing what is in your best interest does not mean being completely selfish, right? Like, it is in your best interest to have a thriving and vibrant community around you, right? Because without that, you're on your own, and humans are very social creatures. So if you could become an outcast in your own community due to your selfishness and maybe abrasiveness, you're obviously, yeah, people aren't going to want to be around you, and you're going to be lonely, right? So it is in your best interest to keep the people around you happy. So that's why that criticism really doesn't work. Because yes, you're doing what's in your best interest, but at the same time, it is in your best interest as a human to be compassionate to other people, right? You do something nice for someone and it makes you feel good. Well, it's in your best interest to feel good as much as possible and to not feel bad as much as possible. Now, of course, that's going to happen no matter what. That's life. But to try and feel good, you do good things for other people. So in that case, yes, it is in your best interest to have compassion and to be selfless and these other things. Of course, some people are not going to be that way, and you know whatever, that's their business. But to say that it's a selfish and discompassionate ideology is just wrong on the face of it. Um, so now that I've done that, I have a couple things in the chat that I'm going to address here. J. Edgar's in the chat. How's it going, Ed? Says, isn't it nice? Not sure what is what nice. I guess it is, but I don't know what we're referring to there. Ron Helton's in the chat. How's it going, Ron? He says, was that screwing others over in Atlas Shrugged? I didn't read that. I got that one. I got that one. Must live their own life, and that no one has the right to ask others to live their life for them, or another one of her books. It's kind of. It's not really like in one of her books. There's no screwing others over, right? Like that's not the point that she was making, but that's the point that's often attributed to her. You know, but that's not what she means at all. In fact, if you want a really good overview and deep dive into objectivism, uh, check out Dr. Yaron Brook. He's he's the president of the Ayn Rand Foundation. He's got a channel on YouTube, and it's really good. I recommend it. Um, I don't agree with him on a lot of things when it comes to objectivism and libertarianism, but he's got well reasoned and well argued points. So I would recommend checking him out. Let's see. What about Ayn Rand, Paul Ryan? I don't know. I'm not sure what you're referring to there, Ed. So anyway, we'll move on to another criticism. And this one is one that I've not heard too often from other people, but it's one that I've come to and one that I've argued with a few people. And I can't say that it's an incorrect criticism, and that is that libertarianism does not scale. And what I mean by that is population wise. So, as libertarians, I assume, I guess I'm talking to you guys as though you're libertarians, although you might have different ideologies, but libertarians often, and rightly so, advocate for like localized power or localized communities generally, not just power, but generally it's just as local as possible, which is of course the crux of libertarianism. But the thing is, once you start getting bigger and bigger and bigger populations, the needs and challenges of that population change. They're different, they're on a larger scale, and much more difficult for people to solve those problems without some kind of overarching authority. Not that it can't be done, but it gets much, much more difficult. So when we're talking about, like every time we imagine some kind of libertarian society, it's always a small community on their own, away from other communities. But that's just not how life or the world works. Um, so when you start talking about like a city full of people with like, I don't know, 5, 6 million people, it gets much more difficult for everyone to uh, to coexist peacefully without some kind of overarching law to actually, you know, um, enforce whatever code of conduct is agreed upon, which of course we call laws. And not only that, but you also have people of different ideologies, which is a point I'm going to get to in a moment. So when you have that many people in a smaller space, it gets, like I said, it gets much more difficult to coexist, and that is absolutely true. And I don't have a solution for that other than don't live in cities. But I mean, you can't stop people from doing that. That's something that they're going to do. Cities have been around since there have been enough people to fill them. Um, and most of the time, cities exist because they're in a strategic location, like a river, like on a river, or as a port, um, which of course draws a lot of people because there's a lot of work to be done there. So yeah, I don't know how you get rid of cities and whether or not you even should. So that's another one of my criticisms there. Let's move to the chat again. Jagger says federalism for the win. I'm not against federalism. I just don't think that it's strong enough to survive, as we saw with how we've been a country for a very short amount of time relative to most other countries, and we moved from federalism to authoritarianism very quickly relative to the span of civilization. And I just think that it, just like any other libertarian philosophy, which I would say federalism falls under the umbrella of libertarianism, I don't think that it survives because people want government, and it's very unfortunate, but they expect government to do things for them. Now, it's going to lead into my next point in just a moment, but so I'll get to it. I'll get to it in a moment. Ron Helton says, "Say goodbye to your precious federalism, Ed." Yeah, unfortunately, Too big and wielding too much power now. Yeah, exactly, and that's the thing. Is that as soon as you give the government a little bit of power, they're gonna push for more. And even if they don't get it every time they push for more, they're gonna get more. That's just how it works. That's government's job is to grow. That's what it does. It grows and accumulates power. That is the only function that government can have and ever will have. Uh, he says living in one of the biggest cities in the world. Me? I don't think so. I assume you're talking about me, and but I don't live in Orlando. I live about half an hour, 45 minutes from Orlando, and is it one of the biggest cities in the world? I know it's one of the most well known, but like it's also not a like it's sprawling. It's very large geographically, so the population is spread out. Like the downtown area is like a few blocks, and there's a couple of skyscrapers there, but they're pretty small relative to other ones. Um, but most people don't live in Orlando. They commute from one of the suburbs into Orlando to work. And even the places where people live, I mean, it's huge. You can say, "Oh, I'm going to Orlando," but you don't know which, so like you would say, "Oh, I have to go on the other side of Orlando." So like I'm east of Orlando. I would say, there's a difference between going to East Orlando and going to West side of Orlando. They're completely different. It's very sprawling. It's probably take another half an hour to get from East Orlando to West Orlando. Like it's a long trip. Let's see. Ron Hilton says, "I have a solution for that. Let the big cities run themselves, and we will go our own way. To hell with this centralized tyranny." I agree, but I'm talking about like cities governing themselves. I'm talking about the problem of you, Ron Hilton, are in charge of a city. How do you be libertarian while dealing with the problems that are unique to a city? It's very, very difficult. And that's what I mean. I don't mean, well, we have to have federal government because cities exist. Like that's not what I meant. So sorry if it came off that way, but no, I'm saying like pretend like you are the mayor of an actual city, and then figure out how to solve the problems while also maintaining as much liberty as possible. It's a very tough balance to maintain in a city, especially as people are clamoring for you to take more power. And in fact, they're begging you a lot of the times to take more power. It's not an easy thing. Sully Blue shows up. How's it going, man? Said, damn, showed up late. Yeah, sorry, man. I'm doing these Monday through Thursday at 1 p.m. Uh, so I'm going to keep the same time no matter what. Alright, so I'm caught up with the chat. And so let's move on to another one. And this is one that has kind of come up over here in some of my answers, so that's why I saved it. Um, Libertarianism, in order for a libertarian society to not only pop up but to thrive and prosper and not move on to some other ideology, especially more authoritarian ideology, it must have homogenous thought. And that's something that other ideologies realize, like especially socialism, requires the same thing. However, with socialism, they have no problem using the authority of the government to force everyone to think the same. Whereas with libertarianism, we need everyone to think the same in order for libertarianism to work. However, we don't use the force of the state to enforce that. And you can convince as many people as you want, but that doesn't mean that everyone's going to be convinced. And without the force of the state, you can't force them to, think the way that you do. So that's another criticism of it. It doesn't work unless everyone is on board. I mean, it has to be that way, right? Because otherwise, someone's just going to take over, and then doesn't matter how much you bitch, moan, and complain, someone's in power, and someone is enforcing their will on you because that's their ideology. And yes, you can overthrow them, but if you want, I mean, I don't know if you want to live in a society where you are constantly overthrowing tyrants, like back to back to back to back, because there will always be, I mean, this is basic human psychology, there will always be someone who wants power. Always. And as Anna Voltis is correctly bringing up, many people want to be ruled, so there will always be people who want to give people power. So unless there is actual homogenous thought and we take the human element out of it, that is really the only way that true libertarianism can work. And Anna Voltis, hey, how's it going, man? Welcome. Um, but yeah, that's the main problem, though. In my opinion, I think that is the core of the issues with libertarianism is does require homogenous thought, and there's no real way to achieve that without force. And libertarians don't believe in force. I guess it's a paradox of sorts or an irony, something like that. It's one of those things. Um, but that is probably about it for me. As for like my main criticisms, there are a few, smaller ones. Um, but if you guys have anything, we can discuss it. But other than that, I'm pretty much done. Conundrum, Ron Helton says. Yeah, that's a good word for it. It is a conundrum, and I'm not sure that there's a solution. Short of becoming, an authoritarian libertarian, which of course is an oxymoron, I don't know how you can do that. Like, how do you force somebody to be free? Right? Like, I don't know. It's one of the biggest problems I've had with this ideology. Let's see. I think that's gonna be about it. I'll give it a few seconds for you guys to catch up and see if you have any other criticisms or anything else to offer. But so in the meantime, Jagger says, "Did you catch my rant this morning?" Unfortunately, I didn't. I actually just recently bought a archery target, so I was out in the backyard, shooting a couple of arrows. So hopefully, you guys can expect some more John Sucks at Archery videos soon. I can do them a lot more often if I'm just doing it in my backyard. So that'll be cool. Ron Hilton says, "I am leaning more towards Pete's ideas on the matter now." Pete who? Santilli? I'm not sure which Pete you're referring to. He says we need to name enemies and throw truth bombs. No more wishy-washy. Yeah, 100%. I didn't even talk about my criticisms of the Libertarian Party in this because, first of all, they're irrelevant. It doesn't matter. They're completely irrelevant. But yes, that is what they need to do. They need to take firm stances, and they need to name the people that are violating their, ideology, that are violating their principles, and hold them to account. Nephilim Ninja says, "Damn, work keeps making me show up late. Stupid responsibility. I'll rewind." Yeah, man, it's going up on the channel. Don't worry about it. I mean, you're here. That's cool. So anyway, Mance Raider, isn't that the guy from Game of Thrones? I'm pretty sure that's the guy from Game of Thrones. I'm not sure what you're referring to there, Ron Hilton. So in the meantime, though, if you guys want to have anything more to chat about, I will not be doing a stream tomorrow, but I will be doing the our normal show Friday night. So I'll be there. I'll be here Friday night, but not tomorrow at 1 p.m. So, Pete Quinonez? Gotcha. I'm not familiar with him, but I'll have to check him out. So I will not be here tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern. I'm doing this 4 days a week, and only 4 days a week. But I will be here tomorrow night for our normal show. And then I'll be back on Monday I'll be back actually Saturday I'll be on Ed's show doing across the board. So I'll be there 7 p.m. Eastern is when I'll be showing up there. And then Monday I'll be back to for more of these 1 p.m. lunch break streams. Monday we'll be talking about the philosophy of the Jedi, and then Tuesday we'll be talking about the philosophy of the Sith, and then I think we're gonna do Mandalorians on Wednesday, and then Thursday I haven't quite figured out which one I'm gonna do, but I'll have one by then for sure. And of course, our normal streams will be continuing on. Let's see. Ron Helton says, "What was that video that came out recently? Power of the State or something like that." He was part of that project. Head Judge Knapp, Dave Smith, and many others in the video. Um, I'm not sure I've seen that one, Ron Helton. I actually, surprisingly, don't consume a lot of libertarian like media. Well, I mean, obviously I like libertarianism, but I just don't find it as useful to consume libertarian media. Uh, it's only because I already agree with it, right? I prefer watching things that I either don't agree with or that I agree with slightly. So, like, more conservative media, I'll consume that to kind of see what conservatives are talking about. And then I consume a lot of lefty media as well in order to find out, what makes them tick, why they think things that they do, how they get from point A to point B philosophically. Let's see. Jaeger says he'll be here tomorrow. Cool. Ron Helton, The Monopoly on Violence was the name of the video. Okay, I did see that, yeah. Over on Anna Voltus's channel, it was me, Robert, J. Edgar, and Wyatt from Breakdown with Birkenhoff. All of us did like a reaction kind of thing where we did a discussion about that video with Anna Voltus. So go check out his channel because our reactions are there. Our discussion is there, I guess. Pete was part of the team that made it happen. It was on YouBoob. Might still be there. I think it is, but yeah. So our discussion and my thoughts on that video are over on Anna Voltus' channel. So make sure you go and check that out. I think he might still be in the chat somewhere. But if not, you can scroll up and find his name. With that, though, I think we are done for the day. And I will see you guys tomorrow night on our normal show. So make sure you're there. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. And check out our description. We got a bunch of cool stuff there. Go follow me on Twitter. Join our Discord. We got a subscribe star there. And Freedom Scoop, of course. So, yes, I will see you guys later.